Hello, my DevNation friends. Welcome to a new edition of the show. I'm back. So 2 weeks ago, I was at Devox France. I was presenting at the time of the show. So Anna and Alex and Natalia took it over as they did a great job. I watched the replay. It was awesome. But I'm back here today for a new show. I'm so happy. I was a bit in a hurry. I could not even dress with my nice Pac-Man shirt. Anyway, we had some technical issues, but Edson was here as always to help. And you know what? Since my guest is already here, let me introduce my guest of today. Welcome, Victor.
Hello. Good to be here. Honored to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So let me see a bit on the chat. Yeah, we have some people joining. Yeah, cool. Hi, Fatma, Rodolphe, Nico, Chatmi. Sorry if I pronounced not good, your name not in a good way. Anyway, Victor, I always ask this question. The first question is, well, who are you? The stage is yours, so take your time you want and present yourself.
All right. Well, what can I say about me? I'm a Java developer, and I've been
Yeah.
developing Java for 15 years, I think, already. I've worked my whole life as a developer until 1.5 years ago when I quit my job, and I started doing just trainings. So I was part of three large companies, three large projects. Two of them for France, by the way.
Oh,
Was for a fragrance company, another one for a big bank that you have in there, and then the Belgian Post, and then some other projects as part of IBM. But then I left IBM 1 year ago, and I'm just doing trainings now. If there is something which is, let's say, untypical about me, is that I really like learning a lot, and I like sharing the stuff that I learn myself with others.
yeah.
And so I have this community of my own that I am sharing constantly stuff. Uh, I've just scheduled yesterday night at 2 a.m., I think, another talk about Kotlin coroutines, for example. So,
Oh, okay, interesting.
yeah, it
Okay.
was a mystery for me for quite a while, but then some of my clients for which I do trainings, they said that they were um, reflecting whether to go to reactive programming for orchestrating asynchronous flows or should they use Kotlin coroutines. And I was intrigued. I mean, wow, interesting. That's another thing that I need to learn. So here I am sharing what I would just learned with the community 2 weeks from now. There will be a live discussion. So this is what I do. Like, let's say, for the people, I have this community that I'm driving, almost 3,000 people, 3,000 and a bit, and I do these, uh, let's say, meetups like you do here, but I do them on the code with questions from the audience and debates, and it gets very interesting every time. It's all in English, so if that sounds interesting, Google me and you can find my website, and then there is a link to
Okay.
my community.
Okay, interesting. So let's start from the beginning. You say you are a Java developer.
Yes.
I'm always curious. I always ask this question. How did you came to Java? How did you discover Java?
Uh,
At school or later? Or tell us
uh,
your Java story.
why did I choose Java, right? I mean, why
Yeah.
Java? Because I suffered very much from C++, and and in faculty we had this faculty course about multi-agent systems, something related to artificial intelligence, and the code. That was the first time I wrote more than 100 lines of code in Java. It was almost several thousands in a project, in a team project. That, of course, like any team project, I got to do it alone because all the other colleagues had other things to do. But I got to write a lot of Java, and I really fell in love with the simplicity. Coming from kernel panic and free and malloc and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I went to garbage collection, I was like, "What is this? Is this a language? I mean, it's too easy." That was the feeling, and I stick to it. And then, fun fact: I got my first interview after faculty, and by mistake, by not paying attention, I end up in an interview which was about JavaScript. But so well they taught us in faculty 15 years ago that I didn't really knew that JavaScript was a different language. I think like scripting in Java. Okay, how hard can it be? And you can imagine they when they realized that I wanted actually the Java job, they asked me several questions about servlets in Java, and I answered so good that 6 months I was a JavaScript developer afterwards. So you can imagine how good, how well they trained us about Java 15 years ago. Things have changed a lot since then, but it was quite interesting. Coming from C++ is like paradise. I mean,
Yeah, it's like I can understand that. Yeah. I was lucky. I started with Java at school directly. I did a bit of C, a bit of PHP, but really quickly we moved to Java, and I liked it a lot. And and you are also a Java champion.
yes, I'm a Java champion, but I don't deserve it. How can I say that? I mean, I'm not so special. I've just been coding for a while, and I've been sharing the stuff that I love in different conferences. I didn't. If you ask me, I don't deserve this honor. Really, I'm just a developer, nothing special. I just want to share the stuff that I learned.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's something we should all do after we get a certain point in our lives, in our career as engineers, as software engineers. It comes a time to share. You can't code the whole project yourself. You need to pair program, to coach, to train. Everyone in its own style. Maybe you like open source, contribute. Maybe you like pair programming, do it with random people on the internet. Maybe you like, I don't know, just brainstorming. Whatever you do, talk to people and show others the way, if you can say that, way, your way. Help others. I really believe this is something we should all do. So that's why I say I'm not really special. So
you say pair programming with random people on the internet. Are there tools to do that?
Some people. Not one people, with some people.
With some people. Okay.
There are software craftspersons out there who are willing to pair program with you just for an hour. Most of them don't ask money for that. Just Google them. I knew about some guy from Romania, but let's not mention names here. Try to pair program. It's hard. Maybe you feel this barrier of pair programming with someone from unknown. Maybe another thing that it's far more accessible for people today is to ask for a rotation in their companies. So imagine Red Hat. Let's take an example. You're on this project, right? And you like to see other stuff. I guess if you go to your tech lead and ask, can I spend a week or 3 days on a different project? If that tech lead really cares about you, he will tell you, yeah. Unless there is a fire going on that moment in production. And I did that myself. When people came to me and asked me, can I see another project? Can I go several days, a week? I want to learn, to see more. And I almost always said, okay, go. Tell us what you learned there. So, and then you go to another project. Of course, you can't be productive from day one, but you can put a program. You can and you can ask them to explain, and you can help them, assist them. Of course, if the project is suitable for pair programming. It's not a silver bullet, of course, but most of them are. Right?
Okay.
It's one of the ways you can learn fastest, really.
And you mentioned software craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. So I know what it is, more or less, but maybe there are some people that don't know what it is. Could you explain a bit what it is, and then we can move from there? And because you are also the creator of the Romanian the
software craftsmanship community, Bucharest software craftsmanship.
Okay, so and then we can move on to that and explain what you do during these meetups. But let's start with the definition. I would love
software craftsmanship. Interesting. Yes, it's like asking someone what's agile. It's very related.
Oh, cool. Don't
I mean, don't do that yet. There are many definitions, as many definitions, but it is related to agile. Some people consider software craftsmanship as the movement in a post-agile world. in which the Scrum Masters won the war, and we developers get to fix bugs and run to implement features without ever granting extra time. And this is like misunderstood agile. Like I'm not sure in Western Europe, but Eastern Europe is full of it. So software craftsmanship comes to put back the focus on the people, on growing and excellence, technical excellence. Something that somehow got forgotten along the lines. People started doing agile. People loved the flexibility and the dynamics of agile, but then somehow some of the values in the Agile Manifesto and the original creators somehow got lost, somehow got stolen from us. They've stolen from us.
The methodology are taking over, the tooling from Agile is taking over the code, over the
ceremony took over the ceremony took over the culture in a sense. I mean, the Agile Manifesto got some very, very geek person in the room, like Ken Beck, Martin Farrer, Uncle Bob. These are super developers. I mean, somehow it all turned into how can we convert a manager to a Scrum Master? But that's another story. I don't want to fall in that.
Oh no, don't get started with Scrum.
Don't go there. Yeah, exactly. Let's not go there. Software craftsmanship is just trying to put back the focus on excellence, on technical excellence. So it comes with stuff like pair programming, like test-driven development. Most of the time when you hear software craftsmanship, there is this TDD word somewhere in there. But it's not necessary. Why TDD, in my opinion, is always related to, for example, take London software craftsmanship community, one of the largest software craftsmanship community in the world, 5,000 people and growing. They are practicing TDD, but at first I didn't get the point. Why is so important TDD? Why is always at the foundation of software craftsmanship? Why they keep talking about TDD? And then I realized that if you practice TDD for at least, I don't know, it's 100 hours, putting your best effort into practicing TDD, I strongly believe that you are a different developer. Strongly believe that if you practice TDD for 100 hours consciously, it can be production code, it could be a coding kata, it doesn't matter. You are a different developer after those 100 hours. You see design better, you feel immutability better, you understand principles that at the beginning were completely untangible for you. So, especially if you TDD with someone who can show you the way at the beginning. I guess that's why TDD is always there. Practicing TDD.
Practicing. And so you mean that even if you start with TDD and you never did it and you don't really see the value in the beginning, you said keep doing it, at one point you will see the light.
You will see the point. You will see the idea. At the beginning, it sounds overcomplicated. It sounds even dogmatic. It can be even. It can seem. You can actually hear about. There was a famous discussion about between Ken Beck, Martin Fowler, and Scott Hanselman. Is TDD dead? A famous series of videos. You can actually hear about test-induced design damage. Don't buy that. Just practice TDD. Put your hand in the code. Practice TDD and try to feel how testable code should look like, and then decide. You will learn along the way. It's like you will realize suddenly that you are at the top of the mountain looking around. Whoa! I didn't saw where I reached. I just looked at the mountain trail that I was stepping on. It's like whoa, right? So test-driven development and pair programming are the fastest way to skyrocket your design skills, really.
Okay.
And these are the kind of skills that never get obsolete. Whatever company, whatever platform, whatever Spring or Quarkus, for example.
Well,
doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Let me do a shameless plugin for Quarkus, because since a few releases, you have continuous testing now in Quarkus. I don't know if you tried it out. So when you start your presentation,
time of 1 second, I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
And that you have your tests now. You have continuous tests, so your unit tests keep running while you are in dev mode. And so you have instant feedback of your unit tests. You don't have to stop your app and run your test again. They are getting run every time that you hit save. So I think it even makes it way easier to practice TDD, because you can. We
had plugins in Eclipse back in the days. We were using Eclipse. There we had plugins like Infinitest. It was called, I think. They keep running them, but it's not as fast. And you have the advantage that you are in your Docker. You can run actually longer scoped. Tests.
Exactly.
I was first shocked about Quarkus when I saw the startup time of 2 seconds. So I was like, wait a second, I should wait for a couple of minutes, right? Just do that. That was the moment, like, what?
Oh, and 2 seconds is long. Usually it's long.
Exactly.
Just let me read a remark from Sun. Hey, Sun, by the way. Sun is a fellow watcher of the show. He says, TDD brings reusability. It has to be reusable for your test as well as other consumers.
Excellent. It stresses the API that you are practicing, so it proves that your API is reasonable because the tests practiced it. So other clients of this, I assume that Sun is building a library or a framework, because that's when it's super valuable to super rehearse your API when unknown clients will be using it.
Well, Sun has been working on a lot of stuff. He's working on JCube now, the project to generate your Kubernetes resources from your Java projects. It's a really
fair enough. So a tooling, it's a tooling that others will use. So it's super important to practice the API, of course.
Exactly. And so it's all about excellence. You mentioned TDD. You also briefly mentioned katakodas. I remember I went just once to a meetup of craftsmanship, and it was a katakoda session where we had all the same katakoda, and we all tried to.
It's not a katakoda. It was a code retreat, most probably.
Code retreat.
Code retreat. It's a fascinating. Yeah, it's super interesting. I once did such an event myself for my community. It was the only time we actually met in person. This meetup that I organized, it was remote from even before COVID times, because I didn't have really physical time. I had family, and I don't have that time. So I did it when I had some free hours. But this was the only time we actually met at a conference in Bucharest. It was a full room, people coding together the same problem and repeating the same problem for 6 hours, changing pairs. Changing
pairs every time. Okay.
Really, really shocking from a social point of view. What do you mean talking to other people? Oh my God! But I'm a developer. I am afraid. Stuff like that. But after you got through that social barrier, then you saw the benefit. You saw how other people are thinking, and it's really fascinating experience. If you ever have the chance of taking part of such a code retreat, do it. It's actually also a global day of code retreat every year, somewhere in November, if I recall correctly, in which in all the countries, including, I think there are multiple such events in Paris, if I'm not mistaken. Not just one. There were more than one.
Okay,
wrong. So also Paris Software Craftsmanship community is super, super big also, by the way. So the point is working with people and technical excellence. But this is not just about the TDD. TDD is the way you can learn faster. But in the end, it's about simple design. It's about those values that got somehow forgotten, extreme programming values like simplicity, don't repeat yourself, stuff like that. You ain't gonna need it. This is actually the goal. TDD is just the way, one of the fastest ways there. So I am perfectly fine if you pair program. Oh, and again, I should mention, you are not it's not mandatory to practice TDD on your production code. It's just as good if you do those 100 hours on synthetic coding katas that you can get from the net. For example, catalog.com. I think it's one very useful site. So just go ahead and practice. Catalog.
Like a log.
Look, so I will put it in your private chat.
In private chat, and I will put it in the public chat.
Yeah.
There you go.
For example, there are multiple categories there.
Okay. Let me share that on the YouTube link.
And if you are at the sharing moment, this is my community directly. Anyway.
And Sun, and by the way, just a remark from Sun. Sun was also leading the Paris Jug. He says, "Hey, Victor, now that the COVID is over, maybe it's time to come over in Paris."
It's over. 15,000 cases per. In Bucharest is just starting, so I'm sorry we are at the bottom of the percentage for vaccinations. Next to Bulgaria, so I will wait a while.
And I will share the link. So About your Bucharest software craftsmanship. So, what do you usually do during your meetups?
Yeah. Um, Back at the beginning, I've did a very. We were talking about books. I was reading stuff and I was sharing what I read. But most recently, what I did some coding katas, like live coding sessions, in which I took some of those exercises and solved them live with the debating stuff and explaining why do I clean stuff up and so on. I've did some refactoring katas, cleaning some existing code, and also some TDD katas, writing from scratch. And I'm planning on doing more. And so the focus of the community is mostly about clean code, simple design, and testing, automatic testing, developer tests. So these three things are actually the core of technical excellence, because you can't really. You need to have a proof that the things work, so testing. You need to have to know how to clean your stuff up, thus clean code, and you need how to drive the design at a big of a higher level, thus design patterns and simple design. So this is what I like to focus on. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. I just checked the chat because we have some questions. Well, we have Milton is asking, can you recommend any good data structure books, books about data structure? Do you have some in mind?
What do you mean data structures? Do you want me to get Eric Evans on the phone with you? wait. Data structures. You mean like hash map? And
Yeah, maybe you can be more specific in the chat, Milton.
If you're looking for algorithms and general purpose programming topics, I heard that there is a very good open, free, completely free computer science course from MIT or
Okay.
they have a. Let me Google that. Data
Sure.
I think they've recorded what they did in the faculty and they've put it open course for. Is that it? Introduction to. I think that's it. But so what they are studying at MIT, it, as far as I know, completely free. It's recorded.
Okay. So if you can put it in the.
Yeah. I will put one of the data structures and dynamic arrays. There you go. That's what you're looking for from MIT.
Okay.
Just a moment. Okay. I will get the link from here and paste it in your chat.
And
there you go.
I will.
Yes. Typically, this is done in faculty. Somehow, or some code schools if you've joined such.
Okay, and then we have another question from Linux guy. He say, how is security testing implemented in coding best practices? So basically, how do you test security? How do you test security?
Let's the commercial moment. I am teaching secure coding in Java. Now, let that apart. How do you do it? Have you ever heard of penetration testing? Penetration testing, pen testing, when your boss hires a professional hacker to hack your application, and the application that you were so proud of, it just turned apart, and you get the report with 15 pages, and you start to cry at night. I experienced that.
Oh, you experienced that? Wow.
And based on these things, plus the OWASP and stuff, I am now teaching stuff. But I'm not the best in this area, I admit it. There are far better ethical hackers and people that really do this for a living. How is it tested? But Java is somewhat special compared to other languages because of the maturity of the frameworks. If you take like Ruby or PHP, I strongly believe that I will talk about Spring, sorry, but it's the only.
No, I love Spring. I love all of our. I have a lot of friends.
All right, good. So Spring is here for 15 years. So it's super battle tested. I dare to say it's the most tested and battle-proven framework in the world in any language. I dare to say. And people are porting Spring to other languages like Symfony and PHP. They are copying ideas. If you are using Spring, one third of OWASP top 10 of the most dangerous and frequent problems in security are already covered for you. You are left with several more, but a big deal comes to upgrading your frameworks and making sure you are using the latest stuff. It has default protection for all sorts of stuff, like cross-site request forging, or the course is by default disabled. Any holes, the typical holes, are by default disabled. So you have to do stupid things to be to be attacked easily, right? Of course, there are occasions in which, for example, sanitizing input. There are SQL injection. There are stuff in which you need to be careful. But the best practices you see today in action shield you from most of these security issues. So if you ask me like a professional business advice, I will tell you to every 1 or 2 years to hire an ethical hacker to hack your application, right? It's the best way to see, especially if you're going in the wild web.
Let me go on. There's a lot of interaction today. It's great. So Rogerio, sorry if I again mispronounce your name. I'd like to ask Victor, being a Java champion, how do you feel when other developers practice with enthusiasm what he shared? Oh yeah, so I think he's just, I don't know what exactly you have to answer to that, but basically I think he's asking, how do you feel when you see other people applying the advice that you gave? Does it make you happy? Yeah, I guess so.
Afraid. Because there is a lot of responsibility. At the beginning, I didn't felt that. I mean, I was like, oh, look, people are listening to me. They care. Oh, yeah. And but then I realized there were some occasions. I think all the people that, how to put that? All the people that at some point have some influence have this moment in which they realize, oh shit, it is not a game anymore. People are listening to what I'm saying, and if I say a stupid thing, they will do bugs in production. They won't email me, but I will harm people at some point. I had such a moment last year, and I was like, oh shit, I should be more careful. Yeah. I didn't warn in some talks about some points, and people fall in some traps, and you need to be careful what is the impression what is the philosophy that you leave behind.
Yeah.
Because it's very often, okay, how to put this? It will sound, please don't be offended, but Java doesn't have the brightest developer in the world. Better than PHP, of course, but not the best developers in the world. Yeah. If you give me Scala developers, they tend to be, let's say, more experienced, with better design ideas in their heads. Java developers, Java is an easy language, not as easy as Python or JavaScript, but it's an easy language. And with a bit of study, anyone can enter the language. So any language which is easy to enter runs the following risk: people listening to someone and following blindly that guy. It happened famously with domain-driven design, and I see this every month. Projects led by someone who claimed that he knows domain-driven design. And everyone goes like, bah, 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 following that guy without thinking. Very dangerous. You should never stop questioning and thinking. Of course, at the beginning of your career, you do listen careful to what people are saying, but after you get several years of experience, you should think always again. Try to find flaws. In any of my talks, I have a lot of talks on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, quite a lot of them. Every talk that I have, there are at least 10 points that I could argue with myself that I'm not right. Maybe not 5. Find those. Find the flaws. Always look for the flaws. No one is wrong or right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
No one. There are always try to always think. Never cease thinking. Maybe it helps to read something or listen to something together with someone else. Per listening, per learning.
Per learning, per listening.
Per learning.
Yeah, that's cool.
read the chapter. Many of my good clients, the top clients that I have this brown bag sessions every Friday in which they talk to each other, and many of them like, let's read this book, let's read this chapter for next week, and they all read the chapter and then they debate, or let's watch this talk and let's criticize, let's see what's good and what's bad in that talk. I really like that stuff with your colleagues.
Nice.
1 hour during lunch Friday, relaxed, right? Talk about.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I like it.
So I'm afraid when people
you're afraid. But
listen to me.
Yeah. Because you have some responsibility when you have a lot of people listening to you, or you see that your YouTube video has a few K views, and you say, "Oh,
exactly."
Wow.
It's like scary a bit, right?
Yeah.
For example, my top viewed video talks about putting B functions as attributes in enums. B functions as attributes in enums. I am sorry today, in October 2021, of that thing, because now in Java 17 we have switch expressions.
Yeah.
That thing that I showed there is an anti-pattern today. At least at the moment you will put to production Java 17.
Yeah.
Always think.
Always think, never takes
for granted. Never
for granted. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, good advice. We have a question here again from Linux guy. So, what is the best book or resource to learn Java? Wow, big question. Do you have one favorite?
I know some faculty teachers that are studying, surprisingly, about a book that you might not, let's say, think a lot about. I will paste the link in the chat. It's called Head First Java. It's a very colorful book with pictures and crosswords and all sorts of memory.
With the pizza, he explained the pizza factory for the factory.
Exactly, pizza factory. That's the design pattern Head First.
I got it. I love it as well. Yeah.
It's a good. If you're asking this question, I guess you don't know yet Java, so
exactly.
It's a good foundation. Don't read Effective Java. Let's not go there.
Okay.
It's in public. It's recorded. Let's not go there.
Okay. Yeah. But especially if you are starting Java, I would not.
Especially if you're starting Java.
If you start Java, and this one, the learning that we shared, Head First, you will learn from the beginning. There's a lot of humor as well. It's
exactly. It's very fun to read. It's exactly what you need at the beginning of your career when you don't master yet Java. Right?
Exactly. So let me see. So many questions today. That's great. I want to learn programming language. How can I get to start?
Write a game.
Write a game.
Write a JavaScript game. JavaScript, yes, you heard me well. A game in Java, or Scratch. If you are young, less than 14 years, learn Scratch.
Yeah, even me, I still do Scratch.
I am starting with my daughter, so yeah. JavaScript, build something that you are emotionally attached to. If you want to automate your home, buy yourself a Raspberry Pi, automate your Windows. If you are passionate about a game, write a game to implement Tetris.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But anyway, write a game that will make you passionate about. You can't just learn programming you can learn a deal of programming by going to some school, but until, like I said, when I fell in love with Java is in a faculty course that they put us to implement a large project. You need to implement a large project to actually get the taste of a language and really get the point, not just in disparate exercises. These are good for start, but then to get the feeling, you need some bigger project.
Some bigger and some concrete. Yeah, and like you say, we need to bring back passion and emotion when you code, and especially in the beginning. So you can do a tutorial, but
it's hard. Programming is hard. It takes for nights and endless nights of focus, hours of silence to get those concepts in your head. I know how hard this is. Right? Although my typical trainees are not are usually employees with 1 or 4 up to 15 years of experience I have in my groups, but I don't have that much contact with students and people starting, but I remember how hard it was at the beginning. Try to solve a problem that gets you involved. Right?
Yeah.
This also applies for using TDD, for example. If TDD is a new technique, hard to learn, try to apply it on a problem which is really impactful for your project, that you're really interested in solving the best way you can.
Yeah, exactly. And we have another question, but I think it will be the same answer, because it's, what is your best advice for someone who decided to be a developer today?
At the first years of your profession, write code as much as you can. At every occasion you can. And everywhere, at night, every moment you have, write code. Start a project of your own. As I said, start something that gets you passionate, okay? And another trick is that there are many online video tutorials today that you can purchase or even free. Okay, these are good, but always start your own stuff. Only when you try to solve a problem from scratch, you really learn. I mean, you need to discover stuff. And how to put this? Another advice, very useful advice, don't ever have the impression that experienced developers don't Google stuff. No, my friend, we Google stuff 20 times per day. Myself, in average, I Google maybe 10 times per day. The difference is that I Google faster because I know what keywords to put in there. The difference is that Google knows to restrict the search results to what I typically search. Right?
Exactly.
And I know who to trust on Stack Overflow. But we all Google. It's perfectly normal to Google half your day. It's not the problem.
It's not a problem. Yeah. And someone suggests me to get started with Python. Well, I would say give it a try if you like it, but I don't know.
It's fast to learn, and it's fast to learn core programming, algorithms. It's really trending. Python is, to my knowledge, the widest, how do you say that? The most used language today in the world. Mostly it's used to do prototyping, DevOps, machine learning. I think that's the application today, the most application of Python. You won't see a bank writing a corporate application in Python.
Yeah.
But Python is good for starting, and there are some amazing tutorials I know on the internet about learning. But just be careful that Python doesn't... I'm a clean code maniac, right? So I'm addicted to clean code, to refactoring. Refactoring and Python are like, people don't give much about clean code in Python. They write their stuff, and if something goes bad, they throw it away, they write it again. I had some requests to do clean code training on Python, and I was like, they eventually canceled the request. Python, and so if you want to just learn to program, okay, Python is a good language. But if you want to learn a language that will get you a nice job, choose other things. Choose Java, because Java is on the back end the widest used. Choose TypeScript if you want to be a front end and you are more like visual stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's the next language, if you like.
Yeah. That's and we have a good remark here from Whistleblower. He said, "I can program in 5-7 languages, but I look more into learning concepts more than to do show off." And
Exactly. Once you learn the principles and design, how to say that? Once you learn to reason about design, to express to yourself what's good or bad about design, not only just to learn solid principles and no, to reason about design in open voice and explain to someone what's good and what's bad about design. That's the ultimate test. I give an application and I tell you what's good, what's bad, what are the trade-offs. If you can do that, then you can program in whatever language. It took me 8 hours on the clock to learn Kotlin. I'm not a Kotlin master, but I can handle myself. Closure, 12 hours. You can learn. Okay, Closure is a bit special. It's really wild, but you can master stuff applying the same principle. So the proof is that I'm talking about clinical design patterns, unit testing in PHP, TypeScript, and Java. The discussion is pretty much the same. I ported I have the same ideas, right?
Yeah.
So you are right. Focus on principles. Try to explain what's good or bad about design.
Yeah. Let me see. It was also a whistleblower who said, "What about C++ devs? I am one left, self missing out." Well, no, you.
No, C++. Okay, what are you programming? Drivers or automation? Or embedded systems? This is what you probably are doing.
Or games, no?
Or games, yes, there are OpenGL games, of course, gaming. Although more and more games are now built, at least mobile, there are platforms for Unity and stuff like that.
Oh, Unity and stuff like that.
Plus, might be programming for PlayStation. I don't know. The embedded and gaming worlds are. What about C++? C++ has evolved enormously itself, quite a lot, quite enormously. C++ 20, it's really. Also think about Rust. If you're coming from C++, Rust is the natural continuation. Super cool.
Yes.
Super
cool language. Yeah. And I work at Oracle. So whistleblower work at Oracle. So
mainframe. I mean low level stuff. Okay. He's developing GVM. Who knows?
Oh, maybe. Let me see. Sunny saying, what is hard to learn is the ecosystem in JavaScript. NPM, Yarn, Gulp, Webpack. Yeah. And Sun, when I was reading that, apparently 3 new frameworks appeared when I was reading your.
Yes, you are learning React, and bang, there's Vue coming up. That's the problem of the front-end ecosystem and JavaScript in particular. The libraries change, and when they change dramatically. Even in Java, think of it: Avete, Swing, JavaFX. The changes are dramatically very, very often. If you compare React with Angular, it's a completely different beast. It doesn't have anything to do one with another. Right? There are some principles that you can reuse, recycle from one to another, like even propagation, like parent-child controller handling, but they are a completely different thing, and it takes 6 months of practice to actually get proficient in, and then another framework appears. That's why I stick to Java. I couldn't keep up with the rate of change. I initially was programming Next.js 15 years ago.
Oh,
then it came jQuery.
I'm still using jQuery when I have to do a front end.
I'm more comfortable in jQuery. Angular is too much overhead. They say Webpack, that and that. What? For a large application, multi-screen, single page, of course, you need something like React, Vue, or Angular. But I also have clients using vanilla JS. So in JavaScript, that's the pain. You have to work with different frameworks from project to project. In backend, things are much more settled, much more relaxed. Like Java has 25 years old. It didn't change much. You can still run Java 1.2 code. I have some clients with Java 5 in production. Java 5 now in production. It still runs perfectly, no problem. So it depends what you want. On a front end, you get the job easier. It's not required to have I will take the discussion to, let's say, the entry developer, right? Because I see these are the questions. If you are just starting developing, front end is easier to get hired. Even if you do shitty code in front end, nothing will explode in 3 years from now. Front end as a hiring opportunity is easier to hire someone for front end development or Python. I mean, even if you write the worst code as possible, you can't do much harm. If you are hired as a Java developer and you pour shitty code, people will suffer 5 years, 10 years from now, because in backend the code tends to get much deep, right? Much more complex. And it survives much more. So,
any opinion about Go? I see Fatma is asking.
I don't know Go yet. this comes from someone that doesn't know Go, but I know the philosophy of Go, of the author of Go, that says that in Go you can do something in one single way. In Java, the task of filtering and putting in a map the results can be done in 7 ways. In Go, there is a single way. That's the design goal of the language, the philosophy, right? The philosophy is that you have one single way to do something, which is supposed to provide a more consistent approach. Nowadays, when some developers in Java run into code that is 10 years old, they scream, "Oh, they did the for! Oh, we should switch to for each." Whatever. In Go, this won't happen.
Okay, but you said not yet. So you're planning to learn it at one point?
Yes, next year I'm planning to learn Go. There is this idea, also for software craftsmanship. There is an amazing book that I would recommend you Software Craftsman by Sandro Mancuso. I will put the link in the chat. I literally founded my community 3 years ago after I read this book. People have different opinions about this book, but it sure is a very motivating book. And it talks about how you can grow. It talks how you should behave if you want to continuously learn. Very interesting point in there. How you can change culture in a company. Very cool stuff in there. And in that book, it says these are not new principles. These are also for a pragmatic programmer, for example. These are stuff that get in the culture of development. There is one point there. You should try to learn a new paradigm or a new language every year to open your mind, to open your brain to different things, right? I'm a Java developer, but I wanted to learn TypeScript. I spent 6 months in TypeScript several years ago, just TypeScript to understand Angular perfectly. Then Kotlin, okay? Then Clojure. This opens the mind, or Scala, my favorite language. It opens the mind in different directions.
Yeah. And even by staying the same language, in Java,
exactly.
I had to give talks about reactive. Okay, so and I was not really pro on reactive, but now I have to dive into it. In Quarkus, we have Mutiny, which is an excellent library. So I'm learning reactive while I'm presenting it, and it's a complete shift going from imperative to reactive.
It's a big leap, yes. And some people say that reactive paradigm is a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a mistake. They've pushed the language more than it is able to stand.
Yeah.
They've replaced everything in reactive programming, exceptions, flow control, everything is different.
Yeah. I know there are a lot of discussions, and especially with Loom project coming around the corner.
Yes,
and
people are waiting. And as I mentioned, coroutines also are a possible direction. Reactive programming could disappear 5 years from now. Who knows? Right now, it's extreme. It does have more than just asynchronous processing. It has resilience support and sorts of stuff. And you can do some amazing stuff with just a single chain of function calls. But it's not Java. It's not any language. It's a different language. It's like learning Erlang, completely different. Doesn't have any connection to Java except for the libraries that you also can use, like Spring or stuff. So you learn, for example, 1 year, learn reactive if you want. And as I mentioned, the best way to learn something is to explain it to someone, which takes me back to what I said about that brown bag session every Friday evening. Do that with your colleagues. Try to explain to each other what you learned, what you understood from a chapter or a video. Super useful.
Yeah. That's how I learn. I call it sometimes when I do talks. It's conference-driven development.
Conference-driven learning.
And then shit! I have to work on that, and then I have to.
That's exactly why I started teaching, because I felt that I'm the most geek person you've ever met, probably, although I don't appear like that right now because I had to change because of what I do. But 10 years ago, if you came to me, I would tell you, go away, send me an email. I was that guy. Leave me alone, right? antisocial, if you want. But I realized that if I try to explain to someone a concept, if I don't have it crystal clear in my head, I can't express the ideas. I can't explain that. The best way to, of course, the pyramid of learning, the best way to learn something is to start to explain it to someone. So this is how I started doing internal trainings at IBM 8 years ago to colleagues of ours. So, and then it escalated from there. So exactly, especially if you put yourself in front of the projector, of the camera today, and you talk to someone in a conference, you can't make a fool of yourself. You have to be prepared, and you learn like unlike anything else.
Yeah.
So what you take from this, folks, try to explain a concept that you want to learn. Try to explain it to someone, preferably not your cat, although that could also work. Preferably to a human, to a developer, right? Explain it, the stuff that you are learning.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure my cats. Well, I don't have any. I did not have I'm sure they understand Quarkus, Kubernetes
Exactly.
really well.
Your cat is a reactive cat.
Reactive cat, yeah. Awesome. Let me take a look. Yeah, well, I want to do a demo today. Usually I do a small live coding demo, but we are having a great conversation. So let's keep the conversation. And we have another remark. Oh, on the front end again. Rogero, what do you think about other single page frameworks but React? So anything but React, probably Angular.
Exactly.
Or what's the other cool one that everyone does now? Vue, exactly, Vue. Yeah.
There are 3 of them, and I have some friends, some folks that I also do trainings, and there are 3 people, each teaching its own. There are 3 frameworks largely. Of course, unless your company is very proud of itself and you code in vanilla JS, of course. But or you have some really weird performance concerns or something. I would understand it. But what's your opinion? If you are a backend developer, like a Java developer or a C#, the easiest for you to convert into full stack is to go to Angular. Angular is most accessible for a backend developer to move to.
That was what I was telling people almost 10 years ago with the first Angular. I say, hey, look, Angular is just like Java EE. You have your injection.
The mindset is the same. You have this HTML partial. You have the two-way binding, right? The same mindset. With React, you have to know far more JavaScript. I mean, the new features in JavaScript that appeared recently, ES6 and stuff. I believe that in React application, if driven correctly, can be a little bit more maintainable than Angular, but maybe because the developers moving to Angular are not very happy that they have to write frontend. They are Java developers, and now they have to write CSS, for Christ's sake. So perhaps they... what can I say? I don't know. I also have a lot of companies that I do trainings for that they are full stack React and Java. Well, kudos for these guys. My respect. Okay, great job. But of course, you've heard about you shouldn't be just boxing your stuff. You should be more full stack today. Even if it's not your expertise, I am unable today to lay the foundation and architecture of an Angular application. I can't do that. I want to. I'm not that proficient. I don't know that good what goes on. The internal eventing, the loading of parts of Angular. I would call a friend to help me to set the layout, but I sure can implement a new screen, or fix a bug, or make a dialogue. That's
or understand, or by reading the few scripts what is happening, and
You after you master the first language. It can be Java, PHP, whatever, backend stuff. You should learn more stuff in the front. If you're a front-end developer, get your hand a bit in the Java world. And try to understand what goes on in there. Learn. Pair program with a backend developer. Try to be like a T-shaped form. With
the T-shaped.
Not only your stuff and nothing else. You should learn a bit about Bash. Oh my God, what did I say? Bash. Oh no! A bit of Python, a bit of scripting, a bit of frontend, just a bit of CSS. Right?
Yeah. That's a really good advice. Really good advice. And I think we have a remark here about as just like the old saying, if you want GS developer to fight, shout Vue or React or Angular, and then you leave.
Yeah, that's the problem with the front-end ecosystem. But it's as I said, one reason could be that Angular was somehow designed to migrate easier people from backend with the backend mindset. Whereas React clearly comes from an extreme JavaScript perspective. Perhaps there are two parties, and Vue. I don't know that much about Vue.
No, me neither. I just know that you can do really cool transitions on the screen with Vue, and I like effects exactly. And yeah, that's
depends on what you want. Of course.
Okay, let me check. There are no other questions, so we're going to slowly end this conversation, which was awesome, by the way. You give a lot of great advice from the beginning when we start. Pair programming, TDD, but also the fact of just doing this brown bag lunch where you say, okay, next let's read this chapter of this book, and next week let's discuss about it. I love that, like the book clubs, but with for technical books. Totally makes sense. Learning a bit of everything. The last thing you said, the T-shaped stuff. You shared a lot of great links that I all copied in the chat so people can find them back. Even in the replay, it will be available. So again, I hope that we will be able to meet soon. Well,
physically.
Apparently, situation is not so great in a minute. Yeah, well, for us, the world is slowly getting to open again. I was at
I've been also invited to other places, but
I did my first talk in front of real people, and that was so weird to hear them laughing, and it was really weird because I always. And the weird thing is that I since 18 months I always deploy stuff on the cloud, and then I have a link that people can click on. And then I did it, and I had the link, and I was watching, but no one had a laptop, so it had no sense. There was no chat to
you can't see it. I should show you. Oh my God!
Exactly. So we have been shaped in 18 months of remote with a different way of thinking. But So any one last word before you?
What can I say? Keep learning, and what's most important, as soon as you think, a concept, try to explain it to someone less experienced than you. There are always people eager to learn in this branch. That's a phenomenal opportunity. People are here because they want to learn. If someone doesn't want to learn, he wouldn't choose, or she wouldn't choose this branch. You can't survive as a programmer unless you want to learn, and people know that. So you have the huge opportunity that people want to learn. So talk to people, explain the stuff that you know. Super important for you, selfishly for you. Okay.
But in the end, for everyone, for the community.
In the end, for everyone. Exactly.
Hey, Victor, thank you so much. And I'm sure we will cross our roads sooner than later.
Sure, also.
I wish you an awesome evening, and see you next time.
See you soon. See you soon. Okay. Thanks for the invitation.
It was awesome. Hey, have a great day. Hey,
have a nice evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone. And